Welcome to Opening Bid. I'm your trail guide, Brian Sozzi. Now let's make some money and get a lot smarter. Joining us now is longtime New York Stock Exchange floor trader Peter Tuchman. Peter, good to see you.
My pleasure.
I feel bad taking you out of your natural habitat to bring you inside of Yahoo Finance Corporates. It doesn't even feel normal.
You know what? It feels good. I've done Yahoo Finance forever, but it's good to be. This is a spectacular spot. I'm happy that they let me out.
Well, it's good that I've actually never seen you outside the New York Stock Exchange, or actually every photo on markets known to man. But we're gonna talk about that for a second. So one thing that I've never, I come down to the floor, I see you, we talk some markets, I keep it moving, I go home. But I've never talked to you a little bit about your history. How did you get to where did you get to? And what is your origin story?
Okay. So I grew up in New York City. My parents are Holocaust survivors. They came here in 1949. My father was a doctor. My mom was his life partner. They were together for 66 years. And it was only old age that ended that relationship. I actually went to Riverdale Country School in New York City. I ended up sort of a bit of an entrepreneur already in high school, sort of always wheeling and dealing. I ended up going to the University of Massachusetts. My first degree was in agriculture.
So not stocks.
It was not stocks. It was not stocks. It was agriculture. I wasn't sure where that was going. I spent a year in Israel. After high school, I came back to the University of Massachusetts, got my degree in agriculture. And then a couple years in, it was sort of I have an older brother who said, you know what, it's time to sort of put on your big boy pants and get busy here. Finance is your game. I'm telling you, that's what your game is. And so I want you to go out there and get it. He was a Wall Streeter. And so I ended up getting a degree in international business and in finance. And I was on the 5-year college plan, as so many of us were back then. Yep. I came back to New York. I started trading commodities. I entered an MBA program at Baruch. And then I opened up a record store, a jazz record store on Bleecker Street in Lower Manhattan.
So at the same time, you were trading commodities?
Trading commodities, going to get an MBA and a record store. And I was managing the Village Vanguard and in the jazz business. And I clearly an underachiever. And I did that for a couple of years. I did that from I was also the doorman at Studio 54. But that's a much longer story. That was great. I mean, it was the 80s. It was wild. It was the beginning of the red rope. Yeah. We had a lot of fun back then. So I did that from 1980 until 1983. And I never finished my MBA, but I got close. I was a couple credits short. And then it was the 80s. The life was a little bit crazy. And it was time to sort of move on and get out of town for a minute. So I ended up moving to West Africa. And I have a friend who worked for a Norwegian oil company for Saga Petroleum. And so he said, why don't you come and work with me? I had some accounting background from college and from my MBA, whatever I did complete of it. And so I ended up working there for a year. And it was an amazing time. It was, West Africa is an extraordinary place. People's Republic of Benin. There was, it was a bit controversial. It was a bit of a dictatorship at the time. We didn't have anything to do with the government, but I learned a lot about accounting, a lot of business and whatnot. And then it was 1985. It was time to really get down to business and become an adult.
There's a lot of next generation investors. I know they follow you on Instagram. I love your Instagram posts, but that are listening to this podcast that are not familiar with the trading floor in the mid 80s to late 80s. Bring that to life for us.
Sure. I ended up, just to quickly, so they understand the continuity there. In March of 1985, when all this was said and done, I got a summer job as a teletypist on the floor of the exchange. There was no training for a job on the exchange. And back in those days, you had to start at the bottom, whether it was a squad, a teletypist, or a clerk.
What's a teletypist?
Teletypist was back in the day when they were trading open outcry auction markets and people would buy and sell stock. That order would come from the post where you traded to the clerk. The clerk would then report it upstairs. And then that order was handed to a teletypist who was putting the information into an old school like clunky old computer, who bought, who sold, how many shares, the price, the time, kind of blockchain in a way, because it was the original ledgering of the trades. Because back then it was T+7. It took 7 days for the actual clearing to go on. Back then, 1985, Wall Street, New York Stock Exchange was wild and crazy. There were thousands and thousands of people. It was open outcry auction market. There was the whole support staff that went on on the floor of the exchange. Brokers, market makers, squads, reporters, clerks. I mean, the energy, the adrenaline. For me, the minute I walked onto the floor, I knew this was for me because I thrive on chaos. I love loud and
you seem so calm. I see you now on the floor. You seem calm. You're locked in. You're focused. You're doing what you have to do.
I don't know if anyone's ever described me as calm, but maybe
because I've been seeing you for all these years. But so, like in those early days, how did you go upon sticking out and making a name for yourself? Because I have known you as the Einstein of Wall Street, the most photographed trader on the New York Stock Exchange floor. But this stuff doesn't happen overnight.
No, it didn't. And there was a long time where that was really not my life. I mean, in the beginning, I followed the journey like most did, I was not given any special treatment. I started as a teletypist. Once my summer job internship was done, I said, I love this place. I want to work here. Can I get a job? And they said, okay, we liked you. You were good at what you did. And so they gave me a regular job as an option clerk. So, and then a retail clerk, and then an institutional clerk, and then a broker. Everybody who comes down to Wall Street, at least back in the day, their goal was to become a broker. Back in those days, it took anywhere from 11 to 15 years to become a broker because it was the greatest job in the world. Nobody ever left, and there were only limited seats, right? In 1903, they issued 1,366 seats. That never changed. So I got lucky. I got a seat in 3 years. One guy died, one guy retired, one guy quit. I was in the right place at the right time, right place, right time. And so I ended up becoming a broker. It was not till much, much later after the financial crisis that I became the Einstein of Wall Street, that my persona sort of, rose to the top.
You've become a cult hero.
A cult hero.
Yeah.
I do. And I love that. It's thrilling to me that this personality and this person who loves what they do has been able to find a platform where I can inspire and motivate the next generation of traders and investors to get involved in the market.
How'd you get that name?
Okay, well, obviously, I look like Einstein. Trust me, I'm not that smart. The looks are the biggest part of the Einstein thing. To be perfectly honest, Aaron Burnett, who was then working for CNBC on the floor of the exchange, nicknamed me Einstein.
Big fan of Aaron.
Aaron's wonderful. And I've not seen her for the longest time, but she called me Einstein. And, Mark Haynes, who was also a CNBC reporter, one of the greats.
I remember I went on his show twice in my early days when I was an analyst. You better show up prepared, or Mark was going to let you have it. You used to climb up the stairs to the set.
That's right.
And Mark was. They don't make like Mark. They don't make like Mark.
He was the real deal
Mark anymore.
He would sit outside on the Johnny Pump on the fire hydrant outside the exchange, smoking a cigarette every morning, and I'd walk by on my way to work, and he'd look at me and he'd go, if you're having a good hair day, it's going to be a good market. And then he sort of started the whole Einstein of Wall Street thing. And then I had a PR person who actually coined the phrase Einstein of Wall Street. So it kind of happened in a way. The brand and the character was done by a gentleman. I shout out to, his name is Abstract Vino. He's on social media. He was I believe, an Iraqi vet who suffered from PTSD. And he one day sent me a drawing, a cartoon of the character that people know me as, that sort of emoji. And it was me on Wall Street. Everyone jokes it's my actual size. It's like this big. And, and it sort of all developed. It was just social media. I took to social media. That was really fun for me. I didn't think I had a lot to say back then. I had a small TV show on Inside Wirtschaft. It was a German station with a couple of guys from the floor. I mean, I used to do stuff with Alexis and all the Yahoo finance people on the floor. But I sort of, I wrote a few things for Market Watch. I did a couple of interviews on TV. And then suddenly I just realized that, my approach to the market was different than your normal person analyzing the market. And that there was a way for me to make it accessible to the new community.
I was thinking a lot about your career over the weekend, and you endured really two iconic moments among many. It was the market crash and the September 11th. For those not familiar with the markets during those two periods, what did you learn, and what was those experiences like?
So I've been at the exchange for all of the crises and/or crashes that we've had, starting with the 1987. I was a clerk back then. I remember it vividly. It was probably the most powerful day because I had not been there that long. There were no electronics involved. There was no technology. So it was really person to person. It was a lot of fear in that day. And it was, to me, the most significant crash that I've seen in my life, except for COVID. Each one of the crises and crashes we've had have had different components. That was powerful in its own right. And, the power of human interaction, the power of the markets, you saw people losing fortunes back then, but I also saw the capability and the resilience of human beings in a workplace. And that for me was just, I just loved it. And I knew this was something I needed to have a role in. Obviously 9/11 I had been there for many years. Look, what's significant about the floor of the New York Stock Exchange is the community that's there. Going back to the beginning, 1903, it was a place where Italians, Jews, and Irish came in, worked together in a workplace that was just a level of humanism I always talk about. It's some of the greatest philanthropic moments where people would always reach out and help each other out, face to face in the midst of aggressive financial exchange. You really get to see who the person is in a lot of ways. And 9/11 was powerful in its own right. Fortunately, we only lost a couple of people, but we did lose. I lost a gentleman named Chicky Pabone, who was one of the ADR guys up at Kenner Fitzgerald. His son, Angel, still a good close friend of mine. We were on the phone with him. He was one of our customers when I worked for Robert Corley. And we just remember he called and he said to his son, he goes, building's been hit. We're told to go up to the roof, that they're going to rescue us. The phone went dead. And that was the last we heard of him. And, that traumatized all of us for the longest time. We did come back within a week. Shout out to Richie Grasso. We were able to get the floor back together.
Long-time leader of the New York Stock Exchange.
Yes. And one of the greats, in my opinion. And we were able to get back together and get the markets going. And
hold that thought. We're going to go for a quick break, Peter. Don't go anywhere. If you're listening to Open and Bid, we'll be rocking our 24 minutes as usual. So, Peter, you've been really detailing your career. I can't fit into a 24-minute podcast. It's like 25 podcasts, but really going through the history of your career, the markets. But here we are today. Dow 40,000.
40,000.
I was following you on Instagram. You have the Dow 40,000 hats. It's a big milestone. What do you think is next for the Dow? Profits are strong. Companies seem to be doing well. What's the next stop?
I think we are at the crossroads. We are in an extraordinary time in history for a number of different reasons. If you were to ask me is the market going to go up or down, the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, it does something.
The best answer. Yeah, okay. What I think is, and in a post-COVID world with a lot of the economic stuff going on, a lot of the stuff happening globally, to me, what's the most exciting thing is that after COVID, we suddenly had an influx of 40 million new traders coming into the market. Okay, this has never happened before. All those barriers to entry that were really significant, that kept this a very exclusive place, right, for the general Joe not to be able to invest in the stock market, those days are over. And I think that that's a really great thing. Okay, not everybody is adopting it, but I think it's wonderful to know that suddenly it's accessible. It's affordable. People can do it. People can start to learn how to trade, whether you use futures funded trading, whether you're using become a day trader, whether you join me at Wall Street Global Trading Academy with my partner, David Green. We train people to learn technical analysis. It is an extraordinary opportunity for young people to invest in stocks and not stuff, to get involved in their future and whatnot. Those barriers to entry are down, and that's significant to me. That the door, everybody's been invited to this party that they were not allowed to. Talking about the red ropes at Studio 54, now everyone has access to this party.
Well, I see it on the Yahoo Finance platform. In April, our latest numbers, 107.5 million unique viewers. I believe it's 2 times what the number 2 person is.
Right.
And we've seen people come to the platform. They need better charts. They need research. They want to listen to folks like you, veterans. It's been a complete democratization of investing.
Exactly. The best word to describe it.
When this next generation of investors come to you, ask you about stocks and markets, what mistakes do you hear them or see them still making?
Great question. And I really appreciate it because it's really one of my main goals and missions right now. Okay, at the end of the day, a lot of people are coming to this game, and especially we've seen it with the meme phenomenon, is that this is a get-rich-quick scheme. It is not. That this is gambling. It is not. Okay, that this is that there is a playbook. There is a menu. What happened with Robinhood and Webull and all this accessibility to the markets, not one of these platforms offered an educational component to their platform. It's like I use the analogy that if I wanted to learn to be a pilot, I wouldn't go to Teterboro, grab a set of keys, say to the guy, I'm going to go fly.
Hell no.
And he'd say, good luck, see you later.
Yeah.
I would study. I would have 180 hours of reading. I would sit down with a co-pilot and fly around and log in hours and whatnot before I ever am going to sit down and fly that plane. The same thing with trading. You need to learn how to trade. Look, if you want to, and what I'm seeing out there too is there are a lot of bad actors in the space, people who have these target signals, stock signals and whatnot, where they'll tell people where to, it's the old pump and dump Jordan Belfort game. It's like, I'll tell you where to buy them, tell you where to sell them, pay me $29 a month, and you don't really need to learn how to do
you get my newsletter.
Right, exactly. Right, and that's unfortunate. If you're hungry, I can give you a fish or I can teach you how to fish.
What do they need to read? What are if I want to be, if I'm 21 today, I see Peter Tuchman. I want to be an amazing trader. What do I need to do today to get me in that spot?
Okay. So you need to go to Wall Street Global Trading Academy. We built, David Green and I, my partner, spent a lot of time around COVID when we saw the democratization happen. We saw this influx of millions and millions of traders. We knew it was time to put together something that was really detailed. We have 21 hours, 21 videos, 200 hours of archival content. We coach and mentor all our students. Everybody learns in a different way. I'm not a book person. I haven't read a book since The Cat in the Hat. Okay. But I am really
good. It's a good book to read.
I can motivate virtually anyone to find something that they'll love in trading and investing. David Green can teach anybody how to trade as long as you guys follow the rules of discipline and consistency. That's what I suggest one does, is to learn how this is done and not try and find the shortcut, because the shortcut may make you a bunch of money really quickly, but at the end of the day, you're going to lose. We saw that with GameStop last week when everybody got horned into that stock by Roaring Kitty on Thursday night.
I'm getting destroyed on X. I wrote a column this past weekend on GameStop saying I think it's a trap. What do you say to these meme stock investors that remain believers in GameStop? I mean, some of the messages I'm getting on X are putrid. What do? I just hit block. They don't have any argument. They have no clue what the company is fundamentally doing. And I'm probably gonna get ripped when we post this thing on X.
It's irresponsible, first of all, for the newcomer into the market to think that this is anything else except that is gambling. Right? It's irresponsible for that person to go out on Twitter because we are at the crossroads of so many young investors, so many young traders who come to me who were still long GameStop at 480 from the first debacle. And now they're going back to the well again to get themselves in trouble.
What I can't understand is why.
Social media has created this platform of envy and jealousy and need and greed. It's the bottom line. And if they see someone lying on the back of a Bugatti with a stack of 10,000s and they told them they bought GameStop at 2 and sold it at 400, none of which are truisms, right? Well, they're going to try and do it. And they will stay in it and stay in it. It's going to the moon. And, for me, I know for a fact that 90% of the people who are playing in this pond are losing money and blowing up trading accounts. Millions of trading accounts were blown up on Friday when everyone got locked in at $67 on Thursday night and it closed at $26 on Friday.
What do you make of, do you think Roaring Kitty's popularity just spawns a next generation of Roaring Kitties and they become even more influential in markets and people lose a lot of money?
Now, you know what? I have way too much faith in human nature for that to be the case. I think we've noticed that this time around, he hasn't lasted in the forefront very long. 2 weeks ago when that cryptic tweet came out, that died really quickly. And then Thursday and Friday's thing kind of died quickly too. I think people are licking their wounds and going home. Eventually, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. I think they're bleeding at the core from all the money that was lost on Thursday and Friday. At some point, look, we can take the horse to water, but you can't make. All I can do is go out there and share my experience in markets. That at the end of the day, this making money, trading the market, investing in your future, creating a portfolio is the most exciting thing in the world. Losing money is one of the most painful things, and there's a pretty clear line that you don't need to cross to do that.
I imagine to be a successful trader, you have to be patient and you have to stay disciplined. But how do you employ those when you see Nvidia going up every day? Now, granted, this company has the fundamentals to back this, but
right.
What do you do with a stock like that at this point?
So, look, I'm not anyone's advisor, and I don't invest in the market myself because I'm trading for customers and I have certain lines I'm not allowed to cross. I think you need to look at, first of all, speaking of, shout out to Dan Ives, this is a revolution, right? This is a phenomenon. This is not a 1999 moment. It's a 1995 moment, meaning that there is a foundation and strength with the AI story, and it's real, and it's going to change our lives in a good way. I wasn't sure about that when I started talking to Dan. But at the end of the day, look, the stock a year ago was at 108. It's now trading at $1,200 and just split 10 for 1. You know what? The stock, is it irrational enthusiasm? Perhaps. Do the numbers and the earnings and the future forecasts support the numbers they are? Apparently so. People are way smarter than me. It's not my specialty. Analysis is not, but according to Dan, it's trading right where it is supposed to be trading. And so where do you buy it? Where do you sell it? Should everyone have it in their portfolio? I can't tell anyone what to do with that. As a trading vehicle, it's a great stock as long as you're using technical analysis to do that, right? Shout out to WSGTA.com. Come and learn with us. There is a way to learn how to trade. Trading and investing are two different lanes in the bowling alley.
Is AI a bubble?
According to Dan, it is not, and that's why we say it's not a 99. It's a 95 moment, not a 99 moment. His belief is that this is going to have such a broad breadth in our lives, in the fabric of our lives going forward in a positive way. My idea of AI was like they were going to outsource human beings, and we're going to and
nobody's replacing robots. Us, Peter.
At the end of the day, according to Dan, and I really trust him, he's so bright, is that this is going to change our lives. It's going to affect so many different parts of whether it's healthcare, whether it's any number of different industries in a positive way, that there's trillions of dollars being thrown at this sector. Belief is it's not a bubble.
In the 30 seconds I have left, I usually leave that open for guests to help inspire the next generation of investors. For that next generation of investors, which you talked about, they have a lot of information coming at them. It's confusing. What's the one thing they can do today to just make it easier to understand markets?
You know what? Avail yourself of as much information as you can. Find something in the market that excites you, right? Not everybody wants to be a trader or an investor, but there's so much embedded in this. Look at the branding and the marketing that goes into the stock market and all that. Find something in it that excites you, that makes your juices flowing, that what you want to do. Like that great line, if you find something you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. Not my line, but find that in the market that gets you excited about it. And go for it and learn and become good at it.
Well, I'll just say this lastly, real quick. Thank you for always being a friend to Yahoo Finance. Throughout the pandemic, you would come on remote.
Yeah.
I know it was a challenging time for you. You never wavered, and we thank you, and we appreciate it. Peter
Absolute
Tuckman,
pleasure.
good to see you as always.
Thank you.
And that's it for the latest episode of Opening Bid.